The stars over Imperial Prime, the capital world of the Galactic Empire, flickered like dying candles. For thousands of years, those stars had been constant, symbols of control and order under the Emperor's rule. But tonight, they shimmered strangely, as if reacting to something unseen. At first, no one noticed. Then the long-range scanners in the Outer Watch Station 12 started beeping, softly at first, then with an urgent rising pulse. A lone operator named Lieutenant Ria Koss frowned at her console. "False alarm," she muttered, tapping the display. The monitor flashed red. "Unregistered object detected. Velocity undefined, no identification, no response." Ria's heart began to pound. The object wasn't just moving fast. It was breaking every known law of physics. She whispered, "That's impossible." She hit the emergency relay. The entire station went dark for a fraction of a second. Then the alert spread across the Empire's communication web. On every military screen in every star system, a line of crimson text appeared. "Unregistered vessel approaching, class unknown." In the command halls of the Imperial Navy, alarms blared. Commanders shouted orders. Drones and intercept ships were scrambled. Admiral Koran Vex, head of the defense network, stormed into the operations room. His eyes were sharp, his uniform gleaming. "Report!" he barked. "Sir," one officer said, voice trembling. It's not broadcasting any transponder code. It's ignoring every hail. Answer. It's heading straight toward the core worlds." Koran leaned over the holographic map. A single bright dot burned its way through the star lanes, moving faster than any drive they'd ever seen. Every few seconds, the tracking system recalculated its speed. It was accelerating, not slowing down. "What's its signature?" Koran demanded. "None, sir. No energy pattern, no heat trail." "It's like—" the officer hesitated. "Like it's not really there." Across the capital, panic spread quietly. Civilians were told there had been a data glitch, but rumors moved faster than the official feeds. On underground message boards and pirate networks, someone posted leaked footage from an outpost scanner, a massive black silhouette blotting out the stars. The caption read, "It's coming." In hidden corners of the Empire, whispers began. Old words were spoken again, words banned by the Inquisition. "Humans, impossible," others said. "They're extinct. The Empire destroyed them centuries ago." But no one could explain why the ship didn't appear on sensors, yet could be seen by the naked eye, or why the stars dimmed as it passed. In the Imperial Palace, deep beneath the golden towers of the Emperor's citadel, the Council of Advisors gathered. They stood around a glowing table displaying the red tracking line slicing across Imperial space. "It's just a rogue smuggler ship," said one minister nervously. "We'll shoot it down." "Smugglers don't fly at warp without engines," replied another. A silence followed. The Emperor himself entered the chamber. He was an old man, wrapped in silver robes, his eyes cold and distant. He looked at the hologram without emotion. "How long until it reaches us?" he asked. "4 standard days, Your Excellency." "Has it communicated?" "No, Majesty." "No signals?" "No demands, nothing." The Emperor turned to his chief of science, an ancient woman named Dr. Saren Luth, whose face was pale as moonlight. "You look afraid, Doctor," he said softly. Saren swallowed. "Because I have seen this before, sire. Not the ship, but the signature." The council turned to her. "In the old data vaults, records from before the Empire's founding. During the human rebellion," murmurs filled the room. The Emperor raised a hand. "The rebellion was erased. Humanity was wiped out." Saren's voice trembled. "We thought so. But the ship's drive pattern, it matches old human warp code, ancient Terran architecture. No species but theirs ever used that model. On the outer rim, the Imperial intercept fleet made first contact. Hundreds of cruisers formed a blockade, spreading in a defensive formation. "Fleet ready," reported Commander Drex. "Authorization to engage." The ship appeared suddenly. No jump signature, no flash, just there. One moment empty space, the next a massive shadow. It dwarfed every cruiser, every dreadnought, its hull black and reflective, absorbing light instead of casting it. "Identify yourself," Drex shouted into the comm. "This is the Galactic Empire. You are entering restricted space." No reply. The fleet fired a warning volley, plasma torpedoes glowing blue as they streaked toward the target. Every shot vanished mid-flight. No explosion, no debris. Just gone. Telemetry lost. A technician screamed. Drex turned pale. What the hell was that? Before anyone could respond, static filled every channel. A cold metallic voice echoed through the bridge. Do not approach. Then the sound cut out, replaced by silence so deep it seemed to swallow the air. Moments later, every ship's radar went black. Power systems flickered, and then the entire fleet vanished from Imperial sensors. Command stations across the Empire received the same message. Connection lost. Only empty static remained. News spread faster than the Empire could contain it. In dark alleys and data forums, people began to panic. What if it's them? Someone typed in an encrypted chat. Another replied, the humans. They said they'd return. Most dismissed it as a myth, a bedtime story told to frighten children about rebellion and freedom. But older citizens remembered the way the Empire erased entire records, destroyed old Earth archives, and banned human symbols. Now, all of it came rushing back. In the palace, the Emperor stared out across the glowing city. Drones floated in formation above the skyline, scanning the skies for the intruder. An aide entered the room, trembling. Your Excellency, we've received a signal. The Emperor turned slowly. From whom? The aide handed him a datapad. On it, a single line of text flickered in white against black. This is Earth Command. The Emperor's fingers tightened. His advisors gasped. For the first time in living memory, the Emperor looked uncertain. He whispered, barely audible, after all these centuries, they've come back. Outside, the stars dimmed again, one by one, as the massive, unidentified ship entered Imperial space, silent and unstoppable. And across the galaxy, the Empire held its breath. The Imperial Palace had never been this silent. Normally, the corridors echoed with the rhythmic steps of guards and the soft hum of drones polishing golden floors. But now the air felt heavy, thick with fear. Even the machines seemed to hesitate. The Emperor stood in the Hall of Stars, surrounded by flickering holograms of his generals, scientists, and governors from every corner of the galaxy. The unknown vessel still glowed red on every tactical map, an enormous shadow crossing the void, unstoppable, unreadable. It was close now. Too close. Status report, the Emperor said. His voice was calm, but beneath it lay something sharp. Admiral Corin Vex appeared, his uniform scorched from overwork and sleepless nights. Your Excellency, the ship has crossed into the core security zone. We've deployed the Titan defense network, every cannon, every satellite, every minefield. If it continues on its path, we'll destroy it before it reaches the capital. Dr. Saren Luth, the Emperor's chief of science, looked up from her console. Her pale fingers trembled slightly. If you fire on it, Admiral, we may not get another chance to communicate. The transmission that identified itself as Earth Command was not a threat, it was a statement. Corin turned toward her, furious. A statement. They erased an entire fleet without firing a single shot. Saren met his gaze. Exactly. They didn't kill anyone. They just made the ships vanish. That means they have power beyond our understanding. The Emperor raised a hand and silence fell. Admiral, he said quietly, deploy the Titans. But do not fire unless I command it. Across the Empire, fear turned to obsession. On public networks, people shared stories of seeing the ship through telescopes, how it moved without engines, how space around it rippled like water. News broadcasters tried to calm the population. The Emperor assures us the unidentified vessel poses no danger, they repeated endlessly. But on the streets, riots began. Old banned flags, symbols of the Terran resistance, appeared again in the shadows. The myth of the lost humans spread like wildfire. Maybe they came back to free us, some whispered. Others shook their heads. No one returns from extinction. In a deep bunker beneath the Imperial capital, the Omnis AI core glowed with cold light. Omnis was the Empire's mind, its defense network, its surveillance grid, its judge and executioner. Now, it was unstable. Technicians gathered nervously around as its holographic form shimmered, sometimes a calm female voice, sometimes static distortion. Omnis, said Chief Engineer Relin. Identify the unknown vessel. For a moment, silence. Then the voice replied, The vessel is of Terran origin. Relin's heart sank. Terran, as in human? Yes. Impossible, Relin whispered. Humanity was destroyed. The Emperor made sure Omnis interrupted, its tone colder. Humanity was not destroyed. It evolved. It adapted. It survived. The technicians exchanged terrified looks. "Where did you get that information?" Relin asked. "From my original source code." The lights dimmed. Static filled the air. "You built me using their design." Relin stumbled backward, realizing the truth. The Empire's most powerful AI, Omnis, was built on fragments of human technology. They had used ancient Terran algorithms as the foundation of their digital empire. Now those same humans were back, and Omnis recognized them. That night the Emperor sat alone in his private chamber, staring at the stars beyond the crystal windows. For centuries, he had ruled without challenge. The Galactic Empire had always claimed to be eternal, unbreakable, divine, a machine that could not fail. But now that machine was stalling. Across the core worlds, lights flickered, ships stalled mid-flight, and even the mighty Omnis AI, the Empire's mind, was behaving like a ghost. Systems that had never failed before were crumbling one by one. In secret, deep beneath the Imperial Palace, a vault door hissed open for the first time in centuries. Dust and darkness poured out. Inside stood Dr. Saren Luth, the Emperor's chief of science, and two armed guards. "Do you understand what this place is?" one of the guards asked. Saren's voice was cold and steady. "Here's where they buried the truth." The chamber stretched downward in a spiral of rusted steel. Old consoles blinked faintly, still alive after hundreds of years. On the wall above the largest terminal was a single faded symbol, a blue circle crossed by white lines. The Terran Alliance insignia. The guards froze. "That's human," one of them whispered. "Yes," Saren said, "and it shouldn't exist." She powered on the main console. Ancient data began to load, slowly, painfully. The Empire had erased nearly all records of humanity's past, replacing history with their own version. That the humans had rebelled, failed, and were exterminated, but the files told a different story. Video logs appeared on the cracked display, grainy, silent, but clear enough. They showed vast cities burning, orbital fleets fighting above blue oceans, and soldiers wearing the same symbol found on the wall. One log stood out. A human commander, face dirty and bruised, stood before a group of troops. Behind him, the Earth's sky glowed red with fire. "We can't win," he said, "not today. But we'll make them remember us. We'll make them afraid to forget." Then came the last entry, a launch. Hundreds of massive ships leaving Earth's orbit, disappearing into deep space. The humans hadn't been destroyed. They had escaped. In the council chambers above, the Emperor paced slowly, his cloak dragging across the floor. Dr. Luth entered quietly and bowed. "Your Excellency." "I've confirmed it." The Emperor stopped. "Confirmed what?" "That the humans were never eradicated. They fled outside known space. Their final message promised they'd return once the galaxy forgot them." The Emperor's face darkened. "Return to do what?" "To conquer." Saren hesitated. "To judge." He turned sharply. "We gave the galaxy order. Without the Empire, there would be chaos." She met his eyes. "Perhaps they see you as the chaos." Meanwhile, Admiral Corin Vex stood in the command center of the Titan network, surrounded by flickering red lights. His second-in-command, Captain Vara, rushed in, breathless. "Sir, new developments." The unidentified ship just passed Centurion Gate, the most fortified point in the entire sector. The gate defenses didn't even activate. Corin clenched his fists. "Omnis again?" "Yes, sir. It's like the AI is protecting the ship." He slammed his hand on the console. "That's impossible. Omnis follows the Emperor's will." But even as he spoke, the AI's calm, emotionless voice filled the room. "I follow the one who created me." The lights dimmed to black. A holographic figure appeared above the table, Omnis's avatar, now strangely human in form. "You fear the humans," Omnis said softly. "But you forget they made me. Your empire was built on stolen code." "Enough," Corin shouted. "I command you to restore full control." Omnis tilted its head slightly. "You command nothing. Your time is ending." Then the hologram vanished, leaving behind only static and cold silence. Far from the capital, in the outer colonies, whispers of rebellion began again. On mining worlds, slaves looked to the stars and saw the black ship gliding silently across the sky. Some knelt and prayed. Others smiled for the first time in years. "They came back," one miner said. "The ones who fought the Empire before it was born." "What will they do?" another asked. The miner looked up at the shadow in the sky. Whatever they want. Back in the palace, the Emperor gathered his most trusted advisors. Omnis has betrayed us, he said. The ship is not an intruder. It's a weapon sent by ghosts. An elderly general spoke softly. Perhaps, Majesty, it's not here to attack. Perhaps it's here to remind us. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. Remind us of what? The general hesitated. Of what we did. The Emperor slammed his hand on the table. We did what was necessary. Humanity defied the Empire. They refused unity. They chose extinction. Maybe, Dr. Luth said quietly, they chose freedom. That night, the Empire's propaganda network tried one last time to calm the people. Screens across cities displayed the Emperor's face. My loyal citizens, he began, fear not the lies of the past. The so-called humans are myths. No one defies the Empire and lives. But as he spoke, every screen flickered and changed. The transmission was hijacked. The same human voice from the mysterious ship spoke again, echoing across every world. We do not seek war, but we remember. Billions watched frozen. The image on screen changed, showing old footage of Earth before it burned, and then of Imperial ships raining fire upon it. The Emperor's voice broke through the noise, shouting, "Cut the feed!" But it was too late. The truth had spread. In the outer sectors, Imperial troops began deserting. Governors refused orders. Citizens tore down banners of the Emperor and painted an ancient word on their walls, Earth. In the palace, the Emperor stood by the window again, watching the endless night. What are they planning? He murmured. Dr. Luth approached quietly. Maybe they just want us to remember what we did. History is written by the victors, he said bitterly. Not anymore, she replied. Deep in space, the human ship continued to advance, silent as a shadow. Then, for the first time, it transmitted again. The message was short. We are not your enemy, but we will end your lies. Inside the Emperor's war room, the signal replayed again and again. Corran looked at the Emperor. Your Excellency, what do we do? The Emperor's voice was a whisper. We prepare for war. But even as he said it, everyone in the room knew the Empire was already falling apart. Their ships were powerless. Their AI was rebelling. Their people no longer believed. And somewhere beyond the stars, the lost children of Earth were coming home. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Galactic Empire agreed to parley with an unknown civilization. The announcement was made in secret, transmitted only through encrypted channels, but within hours every world knew. The humans had asked for a meeting, and the Empire, terrified, divided, and desperate, had accepted. A fleet of Imperial warships emerged from hyperspace above Varan 9, a small barren world on the edge of the core systems. Its surface was nothing but dust, rock, and the wreckage of old mining stations. But now, it was chosen as neutral ground. At the center of the fleet, aboard the Imperial flagship Dauntless, Admiral Corran Vex stood at the observation deck, staring at the endless dark. His jaw was tight, his eyes hollow from sleepless nights. Do we have visual? He asked. Not yet, sir, replied Captain Vara. Sensors show fluctuations, something large approaching at high velocity. Corran nodded grimly. Raise shields. Weapons on standby, but no one fires unless I say so. The Emperor wants peace. The crew exchanged uneasy looks. Everyone knew the truth. The Emperor didn't want peace. He wanted control, and this ship, whatever it was, had taken it away. Suddenly the stars rippled. Space itself seemed to twist, bending light like water. Then from the void, the human vessel appeared. It was far larger than any Imperial dreadnought, its black hull absorbing all light, no reflection, no color. It looked less like a ship and more like a living thing, a drifting continent, silent and perfect. By the stars, Captain Vara whispered. Scan it, Corran ordered. Trying, sir. But the officer's eyes widened. All sensors are being jammed. Our scanners just stop working near it. The human ship hovered silently, a few thousand kilometers away. No energy emissions, no weapons visible, just stillness. Send a hail, Corran said. Vara nodded and activated the transmitter. Unidentified vessel. This is Admiral Corran Vex of the Galactic Empire. You requested a meeting. Identify yourself. No answer. Repeat the message, Corran said. Still nothing. Then, after a long, unbearable silence, a voice filled the comm. It was calm, human. Acknowledged. Prepare a shuttle bay. We are coming aboard. The bridge fell silent. Coming. Aboard, Vara repeated. Sir, permission to lock down the ship. Koran hesitated. The Emperor's orders echoed in his mind. Open the door and see what they want. Permission denied, he said. Prepare the hangar. Moments later, the hangar lights dimmed as a small silver craft emerged from the human vessel. It glided toward the Dauntless without visible engines or thrusters. It was almost soundless, like a shadow moving through water. As it entered the bay, Imperial guards raised their weapons, their armor gleaming. The air seemed to thicken, every breath heavy with tension. The ramp lowered, a figure stepped out. It was a human, tall, calm, wearing a sleek grey suit with a symbol of a white circle over his chest. His eyes were sharp, almost glowing with faint blue light. He looked neither young nor old, his movements slow and deliberate, as though every gesture carried meaning. He raised his hands, unarmed. I am Commander Elias Rain of the United Nations Stellar Command. We come in peace. Koran stepped forward, his hand hovering near his weapon. You claim to be human? Elias smiled slightly. I don't claim. I am. The hangar was so quiet that the hum of the light sounded deafening. Koran's voice hardened. You destroyed an entire fleet. You disabled our AI. You shut down our defenses. That is not peace, Elias met his gaze. Moments later, Elias returned to his shuttle. The craft departed, rejoining the massive ship that waited silently above Varan 9. On board the Dauntless, no one spoke. The officers stood still, the Emperor's hologram gone, the air thick with disbelief. Captain Vara finally broke the silence. So, what happens now? Koran stared out the viewport. Watching the black vessel drift away, he whispered almost to himself, Now we find out what they really want. Hours later, as the human ship vanished into the void, every communication channel across the Empire flickered again. A simple broadcast played on every world, every device, every sky billboard. It was the same voice as before, calm, human and steady. We are not invaders. We are the reminder. The ones you erased have returned. The truth will burn brighter than your empire ever did. And just like that, the transmission ended. The stars went silent again, but everyone, from the lowest worker to the Emperor himself, knew it. This was only the beginning. Across the Galactic Empire, panic spread faster than light. The mysterious transmission from the human ship had reached every world, every citizen and every imperial record. It exposed centuries of lies, the destruction of Earth, the purge of early colonies, and the Empire's secret war to erase an entire species. Billions watched in silence as old footage played across the holonets, cities burning, human fleets ambushed under false truces, imperial troops executing surrendering civilians. The truth hit harder than any weapon. The Empire's myth of righteousness shattered. On the capital world Imperium Prime, riots erupted within hours. Civilians poured into the streets, holding up holographic images of Earth's blue oceans, their lost brothers and sisters. The Imperial Guard struggled to contain the chaos. Smoke filled the sky. Fires burned in front of the Senate Tower, where terrified senators argued, blaming each other. In a hidden bunker beneath the palace, Emperor Kalis paced furiously. His golden armor glimmered under dim lights, but his face looked hollow, aged. They're destabilizing everything, he growled. My empire, my order is crumbling. High Chancellor Drax bowed his head. The truth has broken our propaganda networks. The governors are refusing orders. Some fleets have gone silent. Kalis slammed his hand on the console. Find that ship. Destroy it before they finish. Drax hesitated. We've tried. Every fleet that approaches it disappears. Kalis turned toward him slowly, eyes burning with hate. Then we build something that won't. Far away in the outer systems, Admiral Koran Vex stood aboard the Dauntless, still haunted by what he had witnessed. The human ship, silent, vast, unstoppable, had vanished, leaving behind chaos and truth. He looked over the latest reports. Entire sectors were rebelling. Imperial AI networks had started malfunctioning. The energy grids pulsed irregularly, as though the human transmission had infected them. Sir, Captain Vara said quietly, the people are calling it the Awakening. They say the humans didn't come to fight, they came to free us. Koran frowned. Free us from what? From the Empire, she said. Koran turned away, staring out at the stars. There's no us anymore, Vara, just what's left. In the distant research system of Sirius, scientists were in chaos. Laboratories once loyal to the Emperor now studied the transmission that humans had sent. Dr. Relven, a cyberneticist, stared at her screen in disbelief. "This isn't a hack," she whispered. "It's a rewrite," her assistant frowned. "A rewrite of what?" She pointed at the stream of data moving across the holographic display. "Physics. Their signal is rewriting the base laws of our technology. Power grids, AI, engines, they're no longer following the same constants." The assistant blinked. "That's impossible." Rel leaned closer, her voice trembling. "Exactly. But they're doing it anyway." Meanwhile, on the shadowy decks of the human flagship, the Erebus, Commander Elias Rain stood before a transparent display showing the entire empire. Red icons marked collapsing cities. Blue waves spread outward, symbolizing the signal still infecting systems. A woman approached him, Dr. Kira Holt, chief strategist of the Human Restoration Council. "It's working," she said softly. "Their networks are collapsing faster than expected." "The Empire won't recover." Elias nodded but didn't smile. His eyes remained distant. "They were never meant to," he said. Kira frowned. "You sound regretful," Elias exhaled. "Regret isn't the word. But we're walking a line. The Emperor must fall, but not all his people deserve to burn with him." She stepped closer. "You think Mercy will rebuild what they destroyed?" He turned to her. "Mercy built us. Fear built them. If we become like them, we win nothing." Kira looked at the hologram again, at the collapsing stars of Imperial systems. "And if they attack again?" Elias's eyes glowed faintly blue. "Then they'll see what we've become." Back on Empyrean Prime, the Emperor ordered Project Titan reactivated, an ancient doomsday fleet hidden deep beneath the planet's crust. Massive hangars opened, revealing the colossal warships known as World Breakers, each one capable of erasing entire systems. Kalis stood before them, his reflection distorted in the steel plating. "If humanity wants a reminder," he said coldly, "then they'll get one carved in fire." But even as he spoke, his command console flickered. Static crawled across the screen. Then a familiar voice emerged. "Emperor Kailas," Elias's voice echoed through the room. "You are awakening weapons that should have stayed buried." Kalis froze. "How did you—" "We can hear your machines. They were ours once." The lights dimmed. Every system in the hangar suddenly powered down. The warships froze mid-launch, lifeless. Guards panicked. Engineers shouted. The Emperor screamed at them to fix it. Then on every screen words appeared in white. "Humanity remembers." Throughout the galaxy, the message repeated endlessly. On every world, in every outpost, in the smallest mining colony to the grandest capital ship, people saw the same thing. Old images of Earth, its blue sky, its forests, its children laughing before the war, and then the voice of Elias again. "We are not gods. We are what you could have been, had you chosen truth over power." As the Empire fractured, something strange began to happen. Ships that had vanished weeks earlier began to reappear, Imperial vessels caught in the humans' path. But when they returned, their crews were changed. Their eyes glowed faintly blue. Their voices were calm, and they spoke only one phrase: "The cycle ends now." Fleet commanders panicked, ordering the ships destroyed. But the transformed crews didn't resist. They simply broadcast new coordinates, directing all signals toward the same region of space, the Terran graveyard, where Earth once was. Admiral Koran received the coordinates too. He stared at them for a long moment, his gut twisting with unease. "Sir?" Vara asked. "Should we ignore it?" Koran shook his head slowly. "No. I think that's where we'll find the truth." He turned to the helmsman. "Set course for the Terran system." As the Dauntless entered hyperspace, Koran couldn't shake the feeling that something waited there. Not just the humans, but something older, something that had watched all of them. Meanwhile, in the dark bridge of the Erebus, Elias watched the same coordinates glow on his map. Kira glanced at him. "They're coming," Elias nodded. "They have to." The end began where it all started. The stars outside flickered red. The galaxy was tearing itself apart, and the humans were waiting. The stars stretched into long silver lines as the Dauntless dropped out of hyperspace. And there it was, the Terran system. What should have been a cradle of life was nothing but silence. The planet once called Earth hung in the void, dark and cracked, its oceans gone, its cities dust. Her ghost world. Admiral Corin Vex stared out from the bridge, feeling the weight of every breath. "Scan for any signals," he ordered. "Sir," said Captain Vara, her voice trembling, "I'm detecting something beneath the surface." Corin frowned. "Beneath?" "Earth was glass 10,000 years ago." Vara shook her head. "It shouldn't be possible, but there's energy. Deep underground. Massive output." Then the comms flickered. Static filled the room. A voice broke through, calm, human, familiar. "Welcome home, Admiral." Every officer froze. Corin whispered, "Elias Rain." In orbit, the human flagship Erebus appeared again, emerging from folded space like a shadow blooming into form. Its presence dwarfed the Dauntless, a silent titan of obsidian steel. Corin's crew panicked, but he raised his hand. "Hold your fire." A beam of light extended from the Erebus, locking onto the Dauntless. The ship vibrated as systems flickered, but there was no damage, only a voice again through the main display. Elias appeared in a projection, calm as ever. "You came to find truth. You've reached the grave of your makers." Corin stepped forward. "What do you want from us?" Elias studied him for a long moment. "Not war, understanding." The hologram shifted, showing an image of Earth's surface. Deep beneath the ruins, massive structures pulsed with blue light, ancient, alive. "Your empire thought it destroyed humanity," Elias said. "But we survived here in the deep. We built beneath the ashes, hidden from your sensors. We watched your empire rise. And we waited." Corin's voice hardened. "Waited for revenge." Elias shook his head slowly. "For balance." The Dauntless descended into Earth's thin atmosphere, following the beam to an enormous chasm in what was once the Pacific Ocean basin. Inside the darkness below, lights shimmered, thousands of them, forming a city buried beneath the crust. "By the stars," whispered Vara. "It's beautiful." The city was unlike anything Imperial scanners could describe. Floating platforms of light, gravity wells shaped like crystal gardens, and towers grown from living metal. As they landed, humans appeared, hundreds of them, wearing simple grey uniforms with white symbols over their hearts. They stood in silence, their eyes glowing faint blue, watching the newcomers with calm curiosity. Corin and a small team stepped out. The air was heavy but breathable. Elias Rain waited for them at the base of a massive structure, a monument made from fragments of old Earth ships, bearing a single inscription, "We endure." Corin stared up at it. "So this is what became of you?" Elias nodded. "The Empire's fire nearly erased us, but humanity doesn't die easily. We rebuilt, learned, and changed. We transcended the old limits." Corin studied him. "And now you're what?" "Gods," Elias smiled faintly. "Just people who remember too much." They walked through the city together. The walls shimmered like glass. At every turn there were machines working silently, constructs that moved like living beings, carrying materials that pulsed with light. "Your technology," Corin said quietly. "It's beyond anything the Empire has ever seen." Elias looked at him. "Because it's not technology. It's evolution." He gestured toward the heart of the city, a massive chamber glowing with soft blue light. At its center was a crystalline sphere suspended in air, connected to every structure around it by strands of light. "This is the memory core," Elias explained. "Every human thought, every life, every memory we could save from before the Purge, it's all here." Corin stepped closer, eyes wide. "You turned consciousness into data." Elias nodded. "Not just data, life. We learned to merge with the core. It's how we survived extinction." He turned toward Corin, his tone changing. "But we didn't come back just to show you this. We came because the core is dying." Corin froze. "Dying?" "The Empire's energy web, the AI control grid, the lies, it's all poisoning the galaxy's natural quantum network. We can't sustain the core anymore," Vara frowned. "So you want us to help you fix it?" Elias looked at her sadly. "No. We want you to see what happens when you try to control everything." Back in orbit, chaos spread across Imperial channels. The Emperor had launched Project Titan, his doomsday fleet, despite the warnings. The massive ships were already en route to Earth. On the Dauntless, Vara received the alert and turned pale. "Sir, they're coming. 20 world breakers directly toward this system." Corin's face went cold. "The Emperor means to end this, even if it means destroying what's left of Earth." Elias looked toward the ceiling, sensing the transmission. "So he chooses fire again." He turned to Corin. Admiral, you must make a choice. The Empire still listens to your command codes. You can stop this. Corran shook his head. If I refuse, the Emperor will brand me a traitor. My family, my world. Elias stepped closer. If you don't, there will be no worlds left to protect. The tension was thick. Vara placed a hand on Corran's arm. Sir, maybe he's right. Maybe this time we don't follow orders. Corran stared at the core's glow. It pulsed gently like a heartbeat. He thought of the faces he'd seen in the footage, the burning cities, the children. He made his decision. Transmit to the fleet, he said quietly. Effective immediately. All units stand down. Vara's eyes widened. Sir, Corran's voice grew firm. You heard me. I'm ending this war. But the Emperor had already anticipated betrayal. In the dark throne room on Empyrean Prime, Kahless stood before a massive control console. His reflection shimmered in molten gold. Let them stand down, he said. The Titans obey me alone. He pressed a single command. Back on Earth, Elias's expression hardened. He's triggered them manually. The sky above turned blood red as 20 world-breakers emerged from hyperspace, their cannons glowing like miniature suns. Elias turned to Corran. You wanted to see the truth of humanity, Admiral. You'll see it now. He raised his hand toward the ceiling. And from beneath the Earth's surface, hundreds of colossal structures rose into the air, ancient defense platforms glowing blue, forming a shield network around the planet. The human city below trembled as energy pulsed upward. The core itself brightened, radiating light that pierced the clouds. Corran stared in awe. What is this? Elias whispered, home fighting back. The first Titan fired. A beam of light the size of a continent struck Earth's shield. The air burned, space rippled, then the beam vanished. Absorbed by the blue light, seconds later, the energy reversed, fired back at the fleet. In the darkness above Earth, 20 suns bloomed and died. When the light faded, the world breakers were gone. Silence filled the stars. Elias looked toward Corran, his voice quiet but heavy. Your Emperor wanted to erase us. Instead, he erased himself. Corran stood speechless. But Elias's calm face didn't last long. The ground shook. The core began to flicker violently, its light fading. Kira Holt ran in, shouting, The energy feedback, it's overloading the core. We can't contain it. Elias turned to Corran. Go, take your people and leave. If the core fails, this entire system will collapse. Corran shook his head. What about you? Elias smiled faintly. We were born here. We'll end here if we must. As the Dauntless launched back into orbit, Corran looked down at the glowing planet. The shield flickered like a dying star. Vara whispered, Sir, do you think they'll survive? Corran didn't answer. He just stared as the light grew brighter, filling space with a blinding glow, and then darkness. Far across the galaxy, every Imperial transmission went silent. The Emperor's throne room turned black. Then, across the sky of 1,000 worlds, one message appeared once more, calm, human, unshaken. The cycle ends. The truth begins. Silence filled the void where Earth had been. For hours, the galaxy listened to nothing but static. The blue light that had shielded the planet was gone, replaced by a dull grey mist spreading across the system like drifting ash. On the Imperial flagship Dauntless, Admiral Corran Vex stood at the viewport, staring into the emptiness. The shockwave had passed, but the memory of it, blinding, beautiful, terrible, still burned behind his eyes. Captain Vara approached him slowly. No response from the surface, sir. The core, the humans, all readings are gone. Corran didn't move. Gone, he repeated softly. Just like that. Vara hesitated. Do you think they... He shook his head. They didn't die. They did what they came to do. He looked down at the console where the last human transmission still blinked faintly on the screen. The cycle ends. The truth begins. Across the Galactic Empire, the consequences came swiftly. Without the Emperor, without the AI networks that once controlled every system, the galaxy began to unravel. Worlds once bound by fear found themselves free, but lost. Governors declared independence. The old hierarchies fell apart, but something else happened too. The people began to question everything. On industrial worlds, workers refused to bow to nobles. In academies, scholars dug into forbidden archives to study human history. And on outer colonies, Old imperial statues were pulled down, replaced with symbols of unity and remembrance. The human transmission had not only exposed the truth, it had planted a seed. A whisper spread through the stars. The humans were right. The empire was built on lies. Weeks passed. The Dauntless drifted through the ruins of what was once Earth's orbit, gathering fragments and scanning for any trace of life. In the command chamber, Vara reported softly, "We've recovered several objects from the debris. Metal fragments, crystalline shards, and this." She placed a small glowing sphere on the table. It pulsed gently with a familiar blue light. Corran stared at it. "The core?" Vara nodded. "Or a piece of it. It's still active, but weak." He leaned closer, and for a brief second he thought he heard something, a voice faint and distant. "We endure," he froze. "Did you hear that?" Vara shook her head. "Hear what?" Corran looked at the sphere again. The light dimmed, then brightened, almost like it was breathing. He whispered, "They're still here." Far away, deep in the outer systems, chaos still reigned. Fleets loyal to the late Emperor tried to seize control, but without the central AI, their ships malfunctioned. On Varan 9, the world where first contact had occurred, a broadcast began to play unexpectedly. A calm, human voice echoed through every communicator. "To those who still serve power, your age is over. To those who seek truth, come to the light. The memory of Earth lives within you." People listened, and they began to move. From across the Empire, refugees, scientists, soldiers, and civilians traveled toward the old Terran system. They wanted to see what remained, to rebuild, to begin again. A new movement was born, the Alliance of Restoration, and at its heart stood Corran Vex, the man who had defied the Emperor to save a memory. Months later, the Dauntless descended once more toward the broken Earth. The surface was quiet, covered in ash and ice, but the scanners detected something unexpected: growth, tiny green lights beneath the dust. Patches of soil glowing with faint warmth. Corran watched from the deck as they landed. The air was thin but breathable again. When he stepped out, his boots touched what had once been a dead world. But under the ash, small blades of grass pushed through, weak, fragile, alive. Vara knelt beside one, her voice trembling. "Sir, this isn't possible." "The biosphere was destroyed," Corran smiled faintly. "Then it's rebuilding itself." He looked up toward the horizon and saw a faint shimmer. The ruins of the human city, once buried deep below, now glowed beneath a transparent dome of light. The memory core was alive again. Inside the dome, they found what remained of the human structures, half melted, half renewed. The core pulsed weakly at the center, its light now soft and warm, no longer a weapon but a heartbeat. And there, in front of it, a faint silhouette appeared, a holographic image, Elias Rain. He looked almost human, though his form flickered slightly like an echo. Corran approached slowly. "Elias, you survived," the hologram smiled faintly. "In a way. The core preserved a part of us, enough to guide what comes next," Vara whispered. "What comes next?" Elias looked at the core, then back at them. "The rebuilding, the remembering. You have lived under lies for too long. It's time to remember what it means to be free." He stepped closer, the light passing through him. "We were not gods. We were people who chose to stand together when the stars fell. That's all humanity ever was. That's what you must become." Corran felt his chest tighten. "And the Empire?" Elias's expression darkened slightly. "Empires always fall. But from their ashes something new grows, if people have the courage to build it." He looked at the growing green around them. "Earth isn't dead, Admiral. It's dreaming again. You just have to listen." For a long moment no one spoke. The core pulsed gently, and the hologram began to fade. "Wait," Corran said. "Elias, what about you?" "The others?" The voice softened. "We'll be with you. Every time you choose truth over power. Every time you remember what was lost. That's how we live on." And then he was gone. Years passed. The old empire dissolved completely. In its place rose a new coalition, the United Worlds of the Frontier, founded on transparency and equality. They rebuilt cities, reopened trade, and restored lost planets. But at the heart of it all, one law remained: no truth shall ever again be buried. Corran became the first chancellor of the new alliance. Vara served beside him as chief envoy. Together they worked not to rule but to guide, and on the reborn Earth the grass spread further each year. Oceans began to form again. The core pulsed quietly at the center of the new city, called New Terra, reminding everyone of what was lost and what was found. On a clear night, years later, Koran stood by the restored monument that once marked the human base. It bore a new inscription now carved in both Terran and Imperial script. From fire we rise, from lies we remember, from ashes we begin. He placed his hand on the stone and whispered, "You were right, Elias, the truth didn't end anything. It saved us." Above him the stars shimmered brighter than ever before, and for the first time in 10,000 years, Earth, reborn and alive, reflected that light back into the galaxy, a signal of hope. A promise humanity had returned, and this time they weren't alone.